Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of 16 NTC, the Nonprofit Technology Conference. This interview is also a part of NTC Conversations. We're wrapping up our coverage on day 2. We're in San Jose, California at the San Jose Convention Center. And with me are Oliver Seldman, Leah Kopperman, and Jessica Teal. We will meet them very shortly and talk about their topic, design on a budget. First, I have to do the obligatory swag mention, shout out for this interview, which is from AMD. They do WordPress, Drupal, and Salesforce. You'll see it's a pen, but it's also a very, very sturdy suction cup holder for the pen. And we have a, what do we call this?
Bobblehead.
Oliver, no, but Leah also said a bobblehead what?
Troll doll.
It's a combination bobblehead troll doll with very thinning orange and white hair. So I implore you, if you're only on the audio feed, please go to realtonymartignetti.com. You can turn it off after the first 1 minute and 20 seconds, and you'll get the benefit of this, but you won't get the benefit of our panel.
Yeah, please stay for that.
You should, but if you only want to see the bobblehead troll doll, you can turn it off after 1:20. All right, so we're going to add this to the Day 2 swag collection. Not too elegantly, I'm going to add it. With a thud, the bobblehead troll doll is now horizontal. Okay, design on a budget. Let's meet our panel. Oliver Seldman is technical lead for Advomatic, LLC. Leah Kopperman in the center is analytics and digital director for the Jewish Education Project. And Jessica Teal is Teal Media. She is Teal Media. That's it. Co-founder, president, CEO, executive director.
Yeah, everything.
Okay, all right. HR as well.
Right.
Welcome to Nonprofit Radio.
Thank you.
All right. Design on a budget. Jessica, let's start with Teal Media.
Sure.
We do not have to spend a lot of money to have elegant, meaningful, impactful design.
I would say that it's more of a wise use of your money in terms of design.
All right, so what did I misstate then? What do you mean? It's more of a wise
It's how
use?
you approach the design. Our entire panel is about a new approach to design, which is component-based design. Kind of trying to stop the old way of doing things, which was static individual pages, and kind of stop that way of thinking and move to more of a component-based approach, a component being little chunks of information that can be grouped together on a page, and then you bring in the individual components to form your website experience.
Okay, all right, so we're talking about website design.
Yes.
Okay, website design, little chunks of content, and these can be repurposed and maneuvered. And okay, Leah, help me understand more about this
Sure.
this component-based design.
Absolutely.
Because the three of you have been thinking about this for months, leading up to a 90-minute presentation, and I'm only in my first 3 minutes and 20 seconds of it. So bring me along.
And it can be, I think, a little abstract to understand at first. But in the more traditional design process, you get sort of to a phase where the designer has designed out on paper using Photoshop or some other design tool what the website is going to look like, right? And then that goes to the developer and they build that. And there's this long period of time between the design that you saw and then the build out and what you get. And they always look different because print design and web design are not the same thing. And so when something's just designed in print and then you see it on the web, there's always a holdup where you get the deliverable and your stakeholders see it and say, that doesn't look like that looked. And we don't see what we expected to see. And so you get sort of surprised and held up, and lots of little things need to be fixed before you can move forward. In the component-based design process, you do get some pages, concept of what it's going to look like, but instead of having this long lag period between getting the design and building the design, what you get is a design that's like the overall mood and look of the site, and then it actually starts to get built in HTML, in prototyping, using that look and feel, and then the deliverable comes to you that is, say, just a form. And you get the form, and you get that to look like you want it, and it's being delivered to you in HTML, so it looks like it's really going to look instead of what it looked like on paper. And if you don't like something about the form, that doesn't mean you can't keep moving forward with what does the header of the page look like, what does the menu look like, what does the button look like, what does the the subheading text look like?
Versus this page is no good. This page doesn't look like what I was expecting.
Right. So you build all these individual components. Each one is a small deliverable. You can get them to look like you want them to look. And then the beauty is when they all get put together, they can be recombined in like almost infinite ways. And so the content people who are working with it don't have to think about so much like, oh, should this be green here? Should this be blue here? It is more that they can just, oh, okay, I need a video block here. I need a header here. I need a subheader here. I need a text block. And they can just take all those blocks and put it on the page and put the content in that they want. And they don't have to worry about making sure it's going to be formatted correctly.
Okay. Oliver, are the three of you anarchists in the design world? Why are you causing trouble?
I don't think it's causing trouble. I mean, we've used this approach for big budget projects as well. I mean, it's not just about trying to disrupt something or to get things cheaper. The ideas here are beneficial even on very large projects. One of the main pieces of this puzzle is building this component library, which
interesting. Yeah.
So the entire style guide of the site and all of the components exist in a living library. So as you go through and make new additions or changes, you're maintaining this consistent, readily available and referenceable library of your styles and your components. And so you can always make sure that from the beginning, but also through the life cycle of the project, that they all remain consistent with one another. A change you make 6 months down the road doesn't break some other component. It allows you to maintain a consistency and kind of build up your site. And in fact, the functionality around building pages, like thinking of these components as like Lego building blocks, where you build the key essential pieces, but in a way that they all fit together, gives site builders and content creators quite a bit of flexibility when the time comes to build a page, because they can grab this component and grab that component, and they actually can put together completely different looking pages by combining the different components. So part of the way that we save money is you can limit the layouts, but then the content creators can actually customize their page builds on a page-by-page basis. So, you design a layout that can accommodate a sidebar and a bunch of different chunks of content stacked on one another, and then they kind of piece it together, like pulling components from here and there.
Like your Lego metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're here to learn this component design process. Okay. Now, I'm a non-designer, the only non-designer on the panel, I presume.
I'm not a designer either.
Oh, you're not?
I'm the designer.
Oh, my gosh.
We have only one representative.
All right, well, Leah's the only so she's the outlier, not me. All right. I mean, Jessica. Sorry, Jessica.
Yep.
Not me. All right. Where should we start with our instruction? Well, the two of you already learned it, so my instruction in this of this new process. Where do we begin?
Sure, you need to start with some careful planning. And that would be, of course, perhaps the client sitting down with the consultant, working through all of the various content chunks on the website to determine what that inventory of possible components might be, and kind of doing a lot of pre-planning within your own internal teams just to figure out what you're going to need, what's going to be my key functionality, what are going to be my key features. And then working with your web design and development partner through the first deliverable, which is a site map, which is an organizational diagram of how that site is organized. So it'll show page hierarchy, how maybe pages might link together. We also start to get a sense of where can we reuse page templates and similar layouts, and kind of nail that down. Everything's going to be organic throughout this process because we're constantly learning as we go. But once we kind of feel pretty solid about that site map, then we go into what's called the wireframing process. So think of wireframes as blueprints. There'll be black and white line drawings that show how a page is laid out, approximately where the content little blocks will go, where the components will go. And as we begin to plan out those page templates, we'll also be able to see repeating patterns and places where we can reuse these little chunks or components of information.
By the way, Jessica, it's very good that you explained what a wireframe is, because on Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio we have jargon jail.
Oh,
but you didn't even. I didn't have time to put you in.
Excellent.
You just walked past the jail.
right.
Yeah, well
You
done.
didn't even notice it. You noticed you were walking past the penitentiary.
I mean, that was the purpose of our discussion as well, too. We wanted to make sure we helped define some of these concepts
Yes.
as part of it.
Excellent. From wireframe, Leah, do you want to take it from wireframe?
Sure. So once you get past the wireframe phase, which again is sort of abstract, you get a concept of what the site might look like, how things are going to fit together on various.
Like what the pieces are, but it
But
sounds
you
like
see, it's
black
like-
and white.
it's like
a frame or a skeleton.
It's almost like thinking of like a napkin sketch, right? I mean, it's a little more developed than a napkin sketch, but it's really just like what this could potentially look like. That there's going to be a hero across the top. That there will be the blog column on the side.
Wait,
there will be a video.
A hero.
Oh,
What's a
see,
hero?
I just got in
jargon
jail.
Jargon jail. What the heck is a hero?
The hero is, you'll see this on a lot of sites, it's a large image across the top that is very visually striking and that creates a sort of tone for the page. Often they also will rotate images, but there will be maybe text across it. It's tries to sort of set the whole feeling of the page through some type of image, a photograph.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. So yes, you'll know the location of the hero, but you won't know what the hero is going to be.
Not at all.
Not at this stage.
Not at all. It'll
Right.
just be like, it'll say hero. That,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
And then there'll be a block that's like black, and it'll have a little YouTube play button in it, and it'll say video. Like, you'll know that that's where the video is going to live, but you have no idea what it's going to look like.
Okay.
So you get those. You agree how that's going to work, and then you move on to the next phase, which is where you get style tiles, and that is where you get a sort of conceptual idea of what the look and feel of the site is going to be. Think of it sort of like what you might get with an interior designer when they come to your home and they have like fabric swatches and like a little piece of, like a photo of a wall sconce and a.
Like a mood board?
Yeah, a mood board. And you, so you get a few different ones of those for different directions you might take without them having to build out a whole visual concept, right? So you get, you pick the one that fits you best, or you work with one of them to get it to fit you best, and then you can move on to the actual designing key page comprehensive design, like the Photoshop type of design. You do a little bit of that because you do need to have some deliverable to take to your stakeholders and say, okay, this is the direction that we're going in, but you're not going to take them a design for every single page on the site. You don't do a comprehensive design for every page on this.
Just the primary pages.
Exactly.
Yeah, and pages that require either heavy branding or heavy visuals. So think of, you'll want Photoshop comps for like your home page or a major issue landing pages. But you might not need a full comp for like your blog page, which really is just a list of information that is repetitive in a list format that has a photo and a headline and some paragraph text. You don't need to do a full comp in Photoshop for that because you can just drag those components over: the headline style, the paragraph style, the photo style, and the link.
Okay. And then you're getting feedback from your client, or whoever's in charge of this project.
And in this scenario, I'm the client in charge of the project, right? They're working on the design for me. So, yeah.
Now, Oliver, wait, what was your role in this? I thought you're not a designer. What?
I'm a technical lead, so I'm doing the development. I'm building.
You're building.
He's just
you're building.
I'm just building it.
Building the design. Okay, I understand. Okay.
Just to point out a couple things. So in terms of like the title of this session, the budget element of it,
yes.
The benefit of the style guide, the style tiles, is that you can rather than focusing on coming up with 5 or 6 different designs, or three designs for the site. You can actually do in the same price as one design. You can do multiple style tiles, so that you can be really thinking about and talking about what the site is supposed to feel like and look like, with many options on a much cheaper budget.
All right. So we're sort of breaking this all down into component pieces. All right. It was called the component-based design process.
Yeah.
So instead of us having to conceptualize and approve or disapprove an entire pages and maybe an entire site, that may not be quite right, but big pieces.
Yeah.
We can take little pieces and say, I don't really like this hero. So you notice my use of the technical language.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Picking up very, very quick study. I don't like that hero, or that doesn't really belong there. But we can talk about other things that are cool, like the donation, the format of the donation, the button, and, and the forms, and the landing pages, etc. Okay.
Yeah,
we're breaking into chunks.
In fact,
manageable chunks.
During the next phase after these these deliverables are approved, is to actually start building out the prototypes of these components.
The components,
which can actually happen quite apart from the back-end development, quite apart from all the other phases of the project. These things can all, because they're modular, they can all be happening in conjunction with one another. And to your point, one of the major benefits is that you can actually start delivering versions of these prototypes, the donation button, the hero, whatever, way before someone would ever expect to see a page. And so you can really get the client can really feel empowered to affect the overall process of the site build.
And also just gets incremental reassurance that things are moving.
Yep.
Oh, I've approved the donate button. Oh, that's cool. We got that covered.
Right.
I approved the donation form. That's things are moving along very nicely.
That's right.
Versus, oh my God, this project is never going anywhere. All I get is designs that I can't stand.
Or then 2 months go by or 3 months go by, and then you just kind of get handed the whole thing, and then that's when the worry begins, or you encounter stakeholders who didn't quite get something from a piece of paper before, now seeing it in real life for the first time, whereas in this process they're seeing it in real life from the very
incrementally.
Right.
Okay. Well,
and when they see it in that older way for the first time, it's already completely built, and then you have to spend more labor on going and rebuilding stuff and when you're prototyping it in HTML, you can do a lot more of the build and not have to rebuild on a bigger scale later on. So that's another money saver.
What's the genesis of this component-based design? Who created it? Was it one of the three of you?
No.
It wasn't. It was not. Okay.
I don't know
Leah, I thought maybe it was you, Jessica. That was not. All
I
right.
don't know the genesis of it, though I have a feeling it may be developed out of the Agile design and development process.
Agile, right? Again, programming in pieces and a little
right.
bit I know about it.
And taking the approach of let's create a minimum viable product.
Right.
At first, so the bare bones that will get you there and meet the criteria that you need for launch, and then as we grow and expand,
test and learn and pivot and test again.
Exactly. And so component-based design,
iterative process.
Yeah, it's a good match for that, because you're constantly building on things as you're learning, and it's better to do that in little chunks versus big pieces.
Okay.
I think there are also multiple, many facets of this approach, each kind of coming from different disciplines. For example, the notion of a living style guide. It has been a semi-recent but increasingly adopted technique for managing the look of your site, and so fitting components into that is just a kind of natural progression. Some of these things like that we've been talking about, wireframes and page comps and sitemaps have been part of the development. It's not those elements are nothing new. It's just the kind of way that we're combining them for this purpose but it's more of an evolution than somebody coming up with a new thing.
Yeah, that's very good, actually, an evolution.
And I think Leah made an awesome point on the panel yesterday in terms of just having an organizational change. And I don't know if you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
It seems to have been retweeted a few times, so I guess people liked the analogy. I was saying that there's this older organizational mindset that building a website is like a one-time investment, like you are investing in a piece of furniture, like a file cabinet.
Yeah.
And really, the mindset needs to change because websites are living and breathing things that need to change along with the organization. So you should really think of your website as more like a program than like a file cabinet.
Okay.
Yeah, and this
okay.
process really allows that flexibility. You end up with you're not locked into something because a new component can be added whenever.
Right.
You have a whole a language of a visual language, so it's very easy to change or add things when the time comes. It actually the process is about kind of thinking about how to refine or hone the essence of what you need, so that you can grow and pivot and change it without issue.
Major disrupt, yeah.
Yeah.
Are there opponents to this process? Naysayers who prefer to do it the old, traditional way of designing a website?
I mean, I can imagine that there might be a client for whom the suspension of disbelief for talking about what is a component and seeing how a style tile will lead to a design, and feels that unless they see everything on every page finalized, a visual of it, that they're unwilling to check off the approval checkbox, and that for that person it may be difficult, or for someone who doesn't have a internal technical advocate, so that they don't have anybody on their end advocating for a process like this. It might be difficult for them to buy into it.
Ladies, have you seen objections to this or heard them yourselves?
I wouldn't. I'm sorry. I wouldn't quite call it objections. Like Oliver was saying, I think there's a certain level of discomfort with an unfamiliar process, and that in the past, when the folks who are, the stakeholders working on this site rebuild, they've been through a site build before, and it's followed the old process, and so
like
that's
this.
what
Right.
they are used to. And changing the process so much feels. There's I think a fear of making small decisions on signing off on this is the site map, this is the wireframe, because there's a fear that once you approve that wireframe, you're completely stuck with what it's going to look like, because in the old universe, once you approved what a layout was going to look like, that was the layout you were getting. And in this universe, when you approve something, you still have this flexibility of these components that you're going to be able to move around and use in different ways.
Yeah, okay.
But until you get to the place where it's more concrete, I think that hesitancy and discomfort with this new process continues to play out. So I think it moves some of the anxiety of the project to the front end of the development cycle, and as you go through it, that there's less and less anxiety. And by
Okay.
the time you get to the final design, people are comfortable with it, and what they get is what they're expecting to get. Yeah.
Jessica,
They've been working with it the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
Jessica, has Teal Media had clients object to this method of website design?
Like Leah said, there hasn't been objections. It's just been we've had to spend extra time educating folks about the process and making them feel comfortable as they go along. So yeah, I don't think that there's any strong opposition. It's just hard when
It's
things
different
change.
because the last one
Yeah.
wasn't like this.
Right.
Right. Okay. We have just like another minute or two together. What do you want to leave people with that we haven't talked about yet? Leah, you're leaning in to the mic. Or you got
Yeah,
something?
there's one thing that I didn't talk, that none of us talked about, that I do want to talk about, that's another real money saver for the project. The way that we're doing this design process is actually with two separate scopes of work. So the first is this design phase where we've been talking about getting through to style tiles, and during that process, the technical lead, Oliver, is listening in and participating and understanding what we want the site to be able to do technically, and making a list of all the functional requirements for the site.
Yes.
And we have a set budget, and we'll get a scope of work at the end of this cycle that respects that set budget and tells us, with this budget, we can get these components built. And this can be on the maybe we'll get to it list, and this can be on the we can do this in the future, but it's not going to fit within this budget. And so you get a really good prioritization of what really matters. and you build, like Jessica said, the minimum viable product at least, and you have a site that you can launch, and then you can continue to add functionality to it once it's already live.
Yeah, that concept takes into account the world of development being imperfect and hard to estimate, and you don't always know how long something takes to build when the time comes, and so it accounts for prioritizing what's most important, and then finding a range of what to accommodate, but as they were saying, finding a kind of minimal point where we can say this is done, it works the way we basically need it to, and then kind of continuing to add to it, and so
Okay. How about we leave it there? Sounds pretty good.
All right, cool.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Our advocates for the component-based design process.
Excellent.
All right, and they are Oliver Seldman, technical lead at Advomatic LLC, Leah Kopperman, analytics and digital director for the Jewish Education Project, and Jessica Teal of Teal Media. And you are with Tony Martignetti nonprofit radio coverage of NTC 16, the 2016 technical. Well, where am I? I'm losing it. This is our last. This is our last session.
Nonprofit
Technology Conference. I need to take this in chunks and in components.
Right.
It's Tony Martignetti nonprofit radio coverage of 16 NTC, the Nonprofit Technology Conference. Thank you so much for being with us.